Now, US Secretary of State John Kerry has met Iraq's Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki in Baghdad. He's urged Iraq's top Shia leaders to form a more inclusive government. Meanwhile, Sunni-led rebels continue their push to gain more ground. They're now in control of Mosul and Tal Afar in the northeast. Also, the border crossings into Syria near Al-Qaim and Al-Walid to the north. And they're believed to have seized Turaybil crossing along the only major road west into Jordan. And they're in control of Rutbah, Anna and Rawiyah, as well as Tikrit, Fallujah and Ramadi, which are close to the capital, Baghdad. Well, elsewhere, footage released by the Iraqi military appears to show gunfire northeast of Bakuba in Diyala province. The Iraqi army looks to have seized a number of weapons after ISIL militants retreated from their location. In Mosul, members of the Sunni rebel group, the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, have been guiding traffic. They were seen distributing copies of the Quran to passers-by. The city was captured by ISIL 2 weeks ago. Well, the Iraqi government is denying that ISIL is in control of those 2 border crossings we mentioned and reaffirms that they are operating normally and are under the full control of the Iraqi security forces. Hoda Abdul Hamid has more now from Erbil.
It's not difficult really to imagine what the conversation was about. Certainly the US administration has been pressing on the Iraqi Prime Minister to form a government as quickly as possible, an inclusive government which would represent really all the sects of Iraq and will also put into consideration not only the grievances of the Sunnis but also a lot of grievances that the Kurds have voiced with the Prime Minister for many times. The second question is how to deal with this Sunni rebellion. The US is mainly worried about the spread of the fighters of the Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant. So Prime Minister Maliki had asked for airstrikes, but the US has made it very clearly that it does not want to interfere too much into this situation, simply because it doesn't want to be seen as taking sides of one sect versus another. And probably the third point will be the role of these 300 advisors that should be arriving in Iraq, or some of them may have already arrived. Their role will be to advise the Iraqi military and to train the Iraqi military all over again, may I say, since that was their main role during while the US troops were in this country until 2 years ago. So these are main conversations that they would have had. And then the Secretary of State is also meeting with other Iraqi politicians from both Sunnis and Shia. So certainly he's going to hear from all sides, hear the grievances on all sides, and try to get this country out of the crisis it's in at the moment, a crisis that has been only spreading, I would add, for the past 2 weeks.
The Reuters news agency is reporting that a Sudanese court has ordered the release of a woman sentenced to death for... Bring you more now on our Iraq story and those gains made by Sunni rebels against government forces. Joining us here in the studio, Mahjoub Zouairi. He's head of the Humanities Department and Professor of Middle East Contemporary History at Qatar University. Thanks very much for being with us. The big question here, I think everyone's asking, is why or how are these rebels able to take control of these towns so easily? And indeed the border posts, if that's to be believed. Of course, the Iraqi government denies that that is now under rebel control.
I mean, by end of today, the Iraqi authorities will be losing 3 main three main, I would say, links or border point to the world, which is to Iraq and Syria, in 2 points. And basically, this is an indication of 3 things. One, the government has no connection with the realities on the ground on those parts of Iraq. The second element, that the whole military spend the last 10 years has not led to any kind of coherency within this institution. I mean the armed forces on military establishment. And the third element, that the support of the United States to this kind of military establishment has not put together a strong belief within the Iraq of this establishment. So what we witnessed the last 2 weeks, that the foreign part of this institution, which basically no explanation so far, for all of that, But one thing that there's disconnectivity between the government and this part of Iraq.
We're seeing US Secretary of State John Kerry in Baghdad today. I think we've got some pictures there of him meeting with government officials. These pictures just coming into the first pictures that we're seeing there of his unannounced visit to Iraq today. I mean, just how much blame can one place on the US for the state of Iraq's army today?
What we witnessed the last 2 weeks, that the blame on the American administration has come from within the United States. The Republican have, Senates and other important figures have blamed the Obama administration for not offering Iraqi government enough support, and actually for withdrawing its force early from Iraq. And so basically this is the first issue here. The second issue is coming to the Iraqi government itself. What the Iraqi government led, have done in the last 8 years when the government was led by Noor al-Maliki. So there is a lot of blame to be put on Maliki side. So there is blame coming from different sides, but the reality is that there is a weak government in Iraq, and there are strong, I would say, partners in the north of Iraq, like Kurdistan, where they were able to put their feet now on the important part of Iraq. And what they are saying now, that all of the cities we are controlling, we will not leave to al-Maliki. Where basically this may lead to another phase of conflict between Iraqi forces itself.
But when we saw these forces fleeing from these towns in the north, one has to wonder whether the same is going to happen in the capital, Baghdad, because of course that's the Sunnis' big prize here, the Sunni rebellion's big prize.
So basically, after what happened in Mosul and Nineveh and other places, basically the Baghdad itself is now under the government has taken a lot of measures to secure the place. And I think one of the indication is actually the visit of Kerry. There is no announcement of this visit.
Yeah.
So we are just sudden, we watch those images. So basically this is an indication that there is a real concern about the security of Baghdad. And I think what we are hearing and gathering from reports from Baghdad, that all of the governments now is actually based on the green zone, and there a lot of security measures to make sure that the government is functioning, but at the same time there is disconnectivity with the realities around Baghdad.
And of course, Kerry's call to Iraqis, or to Maliki and his government on this trip, is to bring the different communities within Iraq together. But how much willingness is there within Iraq to form some sense of unity?
It's unlikely to happen, to be honest with you, because basically there is lack of trust of al-Maliki as an individual within the Iraqi political circle. Even within the Shia circle, they have a problem with al-Maliki. So basically there is a problem with al-Maliki as a prime minister. There is a problem with the performance of the government in the last 8 years. There is a lot of corruption allegation about the al-Maliki and his team. There is a lot of wasting of sources in the last 8 years. So basically all of those together may not lead to see a quick solution for the problem. Of course, Obama administration, Kerry will speak about coalition, forming government, but the realities on the ground actually do not give us a lot of optimism about what's happening.
No, not much hope at all. Okay, Mashoud Zouairi, thank you very much for talking to us here in the studio. Well, for more on Iraq, you can just pop over to our website. That's at aljazeera.com, and there you're going to find a really good interactive map, and that shows the advance by Sunni rebels through Iraq. And you can click on these icons to bring up details on each of those locations. Certainly worth checking out. Just go to aljazeera.com.